Hello, BookTube. Well, as you can see, the Bean and I are back from our long vacation in Vermont, a vacation that was twice as long as it was supposed to be because a record-breaking blizzard hit Boston at the halfway point, and suddenly we couldn't safely return. But it was cold and snowy yesterday and the day before, but it was pretty cold today as well, but still navigable. So we are back to Hyde Cottage. We had a wonderful, wonderful time. Best time I've ever had up in the old house in Vermont. And one of the best details of coming back is that I came back to a gigantic mountain of free books in the mail, which is a thing I strongly recommend if you ever get a chance to do it. So we're going through that. I'm not going to do any other videos today. I had a lot of work to do when I was up in Vermont. They're very good about that, about just letting me sit there and type. And I also had a massive jump up in a deadline that happened while I was up there. It almost sent me into a panic. I'm in a slow burning kind of panic as we speak. But that deadline is going to require time. Definitely, it's going to require time on my part. So I'm not going to make any other videos, just these mail hauls for today, and I might make only a video a day until that deadline passes like a kidney stone. But we're going to go through these. This is the second video. There's a part 1 out there somewhere if you haven't seen it. I'm looking here for February new releases. Advanced copies down the line are interesting too, but February new releases are crucial. And also, our February finished copies is what I mean, hardcovers. And also, off the top of my head, just as a fugitive thing, I'd really like it if there was a keeper. One, not just a book that interests me, but a book that I know I am going to love and want to keep. If I remember correctly, in the entire of the first part of these, there weren't any. So we'll see. Maybe there aren't, and maybe that's too much of an expectation to put on these things. Some of these packages are a little bit worse for wear because I imagine they've been out in the weather quite a bit while I was gone. But let's see. This next one is absolutely huge. What have we got here? Oh my God. What is this? What on earth? Okay. This is a novel. It's by David Adams Cleveland, and it's called Gods of Deception. Not an ugly cover. Quite an evocative cover, but the thing that's going to get your attention about it first is the size of it. Look at how huge this is. This comes out in late May. Acclaimed novelist and historian David Adams Cleveland's new literary fiction novel, delves into a time when this country was divided over one of the most dramatic spy cases in American history. Gods of Deception tells the fascinating story of the Alger-Hiss spy case through the eyes of 3 generations of the Dimmock family. At age 95, Judge Edward Dimmock, patriarch of his family and the man who defended Alger-Hiss in the famous 1950 Cold War trial of the century, is struggling to finish his memoir. Judge Dimmock is consumed with the troubling secrets he's held for over 50 years, secrets that might change American history and the lives of his entire family. Was his client guilty of spying for Stalin or not? And if guilty, did his crimes go far beyond his perjury conviction? Dimmock summons his grandson, George Altman, a brilliant Princeton astrophysicist, to his fabled Catskill retreat in quest for truth. George soon finds clues that point to Hiss's guilt, a series of suspicious deaths of potential witnesses, and the secret of the Dimmock family, deceptive entanglements that have ravaged the clan and the nation. These revelations will change everything we thought we knew about the Hiss case and the early years of the Cold War, and will show how discovering the truth about a family's past can profoundly change one's life. Good God, this thing is huge. So, in this book, the author has created a thrilling tale of espionage, a family saga, a stirring love story, and a meditation on time and memory, astrophysics, and art. The novel takes you on an unforgettable journey into the troubled human heart, as well as our shared history, a past that is ever present and where the gods of deception await our distant call. Okay, I think this is going to get widely reviewed. I'm remembering something like this, another literary thriller type thing that was notable for its enormous size. And now I'm having trouble remembering. Actually, now that I think of it, there were 2. One was The Company by Littell. But there was another one too. That is right on the tip of my tongue. I will have to remember them because there aren't many things like this. Ordinarily, a book this size is a book of a very different type. But comparatively modern history, how long is this thing anyway? Do you tell me? Do you actually tell me how long this is? 928 pages. Ordinarily, a book like that is firmly entrenched in non-recoverable history, whereas the Alger Hiss case still has living people who remember it. Okay, fantastic. All right, this comes out as a looks like $34 hardcover in late May. Might want to pre-order yours now. This is The Gods of Deception. What a way to start this part 2. Good Lord. A gigantic 1,000-page novel about Alger Hiss. I tell you, I love my job. All right, let's see what this next one is. The finished copy. Oh, good. Very good. Very good. This is a February release of something that we've already seen. Fantastic. Let's free it of all of its excess paperwork. This is the finished copy of Scott Reynolds Nelson's book, Oceans of Grain, in which he says that grain is the key to American history. Though we often speculate, it is difficult to pinpoint how empires are made and how they fall. But by tracing a single crop, wheat, the author of this book demonstrates his profound impact on world economic and political stages. With the story of the United States and Russia's competitive efforts to feed Europe throughout the 19th century. Revealingly, he shows how this led to the 20th century collapses of the largest empires, Chinese, Ottoman, and the Russian Empire itself. With the outbreak of the U.S. Civil War, technology and capitalism joined forces to further two key economic developments, the expansion of railroad corridors and the creation of the futures contracts by boulevard barons in partnership with the Union Army. Together, these allowed cheap American grain to flood the European market, leading to an international financial crisis in 1873, then known as the Great Depression. The author examines the trajectory of these events through the end of the First World War, with revolutions spurred by intellectuals working with peasants to destabilize these empires, ultimately transforming the geopolitical world. Okay, great. And this comes out in late February, which is just what I want. I can't stop thinking about Gods of Deception and Alger Hiss. Now I'm wondering how much I have on Alger Hiss that's here. That's going to cause a flurry of interlibrary loans. All right, let's look at this next one here. Oh, no, we're not going to look at this next one. I'm glad I glanced at it first. This is a Kirkus book. I do some reviewing, to put it mildly, for Kirkus reviews. And since my reviews are anonymous, I don't like to show them. I don't like to show the books on camera, so we'll just skip right over that one. And move on to this next one. Very rare nowadays for Kirkus to send a physical copy, a printed copy. Usually they're all electronic now. Okay. All right. I guess we're going to be all over the map with this mail haul. This comes out next week, and it is a romance novel. This is by someone with a pretentious single name, an author with a pretentious single name, Tijan, and it's called The Damaged. There's No More Hiding. An insider's novel. No longer an outsider, Bailey has a family and love that she never could have imagined. Used to living in the shadows, Cash will now do anything to protect his family and his woman. They will take on the world together. In the meantime, stunning motives, lies, and explosive secrets continue to unfold. Quinn is in jail, awaiting trial. Friends might actually be enemies. And what is Calhoun plotting? More importantly, will Cash discover before it's too late? So is this not the first book of the... Oh, no, it's the second book of the series. Oh, I do feel like I'm being invited late to a party where everybody knows the rules. Oh, my. Well, I'll have to get in touch with the publicist. I think when I enthused about this book, I was mainly swooning for the cover and was not remembering this is the second book in a series. So if you... did I mention when this comes out? Next week, February 8th. So if you read the first book in this series, well, then you now know that the second book is coming out. But I'm going to see if maybe I can get the first book in the series. Because it doesn't sound like that one's going to make any sense to me without it. But let's push on here. What is this next one? Another finished copy by the weight of it. Yes. Okay, great. Fantastic. All right, so this is March the 1st. Essentially a February new release. This is on March the 1st. This is by Thomas Helling, and it is the finished copy of The Great War and the Birth of Modern Medicine. Not long after the Great War erupted in Europe, it became clear that weaponry had far outstripped medical science. In those first horrid days of August 1914, as casualties poured in, physicians could do little more than sift through the rows of the infirmed, inspect, bandage, and move on. They were at a loss for how to treat them all. The wounds inflicted were horribly complex, of a kind never before seen, and against the horrors of this new warfare, surgeons accomplished the unbelievable. In this book, the author provides a riveting account of the chemists, physicists, doctors, and researchers who united in one grand effort to propel medicine into the modern age and find redemption in the ashes of catastrophe. This stunning new account explores how the countless cases of gas gangrene, hemorrhagic shock, poisoning, brain trauma, and influenza prompted medical innovations that would last far beyond the armistice of 1918. Great. Fantastic. This book shows that the marvels of resuscitation, blood transfusion, brain surgery, x-rays, and bone setting all had their beginnings on the battlefields of France. Tell me you don't want to read this now. I do. And can I? March the 1st. No, I cannot. I am socked with a ninja deadline to beat all ninja deadlines. I cannot read it, even though it's only March 1st, even though it's only a couple of weeks away. I cannot read this tonight. After constant bombardments by high explosives and near-suicidal infantry charges, many were left cowering in dugouts, trenches, and tents. Though their cases were initially dismissed, the author illuminates the compassionate figures who investigated the complexities of the human psyche and what we now call PTSD, which was then called shell shock. Fantastic. Okay, God bless Pegasus Books. Okay, so those of you out there who like your World War I history, those of you out there who are fascinated by medicine, you just line right up. This comes out on the 1st of March. Again, I want to point out, not meaning to rub salt in the wound, it is very nice to come back to a giant pile of free books in the mail. Even if they're tempting me and I have to say, get thee behind me, Satan, because I can't, this huge mail haul cannot be a TBR for me. Absolutely cannot. Until at least Tuesday. It cannot be. Unless I work quite hard tonight. If I work with the speed and intensity with which only I can work, who knows? In other words, I might work a miracle tonight. If I work a miracle tonight, I might seem a lot less harried tomorrow when we chat. Oh, fantastic. All right. This next one is coming out in late February. This is by Adam Nicholson, and it is Life Between the Tides, which is going to mention tidal pools, rock pools, when the tide goes out, which is one of my favorite things to do at the beach. Let's see here. What do we have here? Oh, no. We have all blurbs. Lots of blurbs. Lots of good blurbs, but it doesn't help us. Let's see what we have here. Inside each rock pool, yes, tucked into one of the infinite crevices of the tidal coastline, lies a rippling, silent, unknowable universe. That is absolutely true. Oh my! If you live near the ocean, and then you've probably explored your share of tidal pools yourself. They're great. Below the stillness of the surface course different currents of endless motion, the ebb and flow of the tide, the steady forward propulsion of the passage of time, and the tiny lifetimes of the rock pool's creatures, all of which coalesce into the grand narrative of evolution. In this book, the author investigates one of the most revelatory habitats on Earth. Under his microscope, we see a prawn's head become a medieval helmet, and a group of winkles transform into a Dickensian social scene, with mollusks munching on Stilton and glancing at their pocket watches. Fantastic. All right, so clearly the author is going to have a lot of fun, and that's good, because there is no more innocent a pleasure, there is no more innocent pleasure than to poke around in tidal pools at the beach. It's the only thing that ever tempts me to the seaside. Absolutely. I'm not going to swim in the ocean with sharks right beyond the breakers, just waiting to see if maybe you're tempting enough for them to zoom in, take a bite which for them is trivial and for you is fatal, and then decide, don't really like the taste, and swim off. They never think about it again. You're dead. I have braved many, many tidal pools in my life, usually with a huge, ostentatious straw bonnet on, with a kerchief on the back to cover the back of my neck, usually in a sweatshirt, because the sun and I are mortal enemies. If I go to its domain, the beach, I'm asking for trouble. But tidal pools will do it. Also jetties, stone jetties will also do it. But anyway, that, believe it or not, is only halfway through this second part of this mail haul, but all the rest of it is boxes. I saved all the boxes for the end, because boxes usually connote finished copies. Although just from a book nerd perspective, especially somebody like me, I confess I absolutely love enormous fat books. I absolutely love them. Uh, for someone like me, the Gods of Deception is really sort of a peak of this. I don't imagine this getting much better than that. But what have we got here? This box had 2 books in it. Oh, great. Oh, fantastic. All right. Uh, okay, one we saw before. One we saw in the last mail haul, which is William Martin's new book, December 41. About a spy hunt at the very beginning of America's involvement in World War II by the author of Back Bay and Cape Cod and a bunch of other books that you almost certainly have seen and maybe have read. And then another one, I guess this publisher sent me both of these. Another one is Project Namahana. Project Namahana by John Teschner. Pretty evocative cover. Actually, both of these are. I'm so used to bashing on American covers. Both of these are fairly good. So we already saw December 41. If you want to know a little bit more about that, check out my first video. And don't forget to smash that like button. What's this one, though? 2 men, unified by a string of disappearances and deaths, search for answers and salvation in the jungles of Kauai. Oh, hence the title. Okay. Kauai is the most wild and the most beautiful of the Hawaiian Islands. Together, they must navigate the overlapping and complicated lines between a close-knit community and the hated but economically necessary corporate farms, and the decades-old secret that bind them. The author takes you from Midwestern glass-walled corporate offices over the Pacific. How do you have a Midwestern glass-walled corporate office over the Pacific? It's kind of beyond the Midwest reach. And across the island of Kauai, from seemingly idyllic beaches and mountainous inland jungles to the face of Mount Namahana, all the while exploring the question of how corporate executives could be responsible for evil things without, presumably, being evil themselves. Why on earth would you presume that? Of course they're evil themselves. All right, so the William Martin book comes out in the summer, June, and Project Namahana comes out in June as well. All right, so we've got a Hawaii-based thriller there. So let's move on to the next box here. I don't have any box opening implements with me, so I'm just going to have to use my finger. Fortunately, that's not a problem. Those of you who are brand new to the channel, I have almost no sense of time. So I am free to use my fingers as rude wedges without really hurting them much. So what is this next one? Oh, fantastic. Oh, wow, I don't think I knew this was coming. This is the finished copy of Paul Stevenson's new book, New Rome, The Empire in the East. How do you like them apples? So Paul Stevenson is a historian of late antiquity and the author of a biography of Constantine the Great. So what have we got here? No sheet in this thing, but I'm already intrigued. The only thing I don't know without a sheet is when this comes out. It's a finished copy, so maybe February? Maybe this is a new book? As modern empires rise and fall, ancient Rome becomes ever more significant. We yearn for Rome's power, but fear Rome's ruin. Will we turn out like the Romans, we wonder, or can we escape their fate? I'm pressed for time here and under a cruel deadline, or I would go on a diatribe. There's only one thing that can... I'm not going to do it. Let's see here. That question has obsessed centuries of historians and leaders who have explored diverse political, religious, and economic forces to explain Rome's decline. Yet the decisive factor remains elusive. Does it really? In this book, the author looks beyond traditional texts and well-known artifacts to offer a novel, scientifically minded interpretation of antiquity's end. It turns out that the descent of Rome is inscribed not only in parchments, but also in ice cores and DNA. From these and other sources, we learn that pollution and pandemics influenced the fate of Constantinople and the Eastern Roman Empire. During its final 5 centuries, the empire in the East survived devastation by natural disasters, the degradation of the human environment, and pathogens previously unknown to the empire's densely populated, unsanitary cities. Despite the plague of Justinian, regular barbarian invasions, and a war with Persia and the rise of Islam, the empire endured as a political entity. However, Greco-Roman civilization, a world of interconnected cities that had shared a common material culture for a millennium, did not. Politics, war, and religious strife drove the transformation of Eastern Rome, but they do not tell the whole story. Braiding the political history of the empire together with its urban, material, environmental, and epidemiological history, New Rome offers the most comprehensive explanation to date of the Eastern Empire's transformation into Byzantium. Oh my God. It's a COVID-19 history of Rome. Oh my God. All right. Well, it could be great. So fantastic. New Rome. Didn't know it was coming. Need to check the date on it. If it's a February finished copy, it could actually help me instead of hurting me under my cruel deadlines here. Let's just press on here. Got a few more boxes to do. We'll land this baby in 30 minutes, and then we'll be on our way. What is this next one? Another finished copy? Oh, it's a few books. It's a couple of books. No wonder I'm getting these boxes. Publicists are doubling things up. All right, so 2 releases from Tor. How wonderful is that? The first one is by Samit Basu, and it is The City Inside. Look at that cover. Oh, amazing. So this comes out, The City Inside comes out in June, so it's a long way off, but what have we got here? Joey is a reality controller in near future Delhi. Her job is to supervise the multimedia, multi-reality live streams of Indy, one of South Asia's fastest rising online celebrities, who also happens to be her college ex. Joey's job gives her considerable cultural power, but she's too caught up in day-to-day crisis handling to see this or to figure out what she wants from her life. Rudra is a recluse estranged from his wealthy and powerful family, fled to an impoverished immigrant neighborhood where he loses himself in video games and his neighbors' lives. When his father's death pulls him back into the family orbit, an impulsive job offer from Joey becomes his only escape from the life he never wanted. But no good deed goes unpunished. As Joey and Rudra become enmeshed in the multiple conspiracies, their lives start to spin out of control, complicated by dysfunctional relationships, corporate loyalty, and the never-ending pressures of surveillance capitalism. Little shout out there to Shoshana Zuboff's great book, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism, which you should definitely read. It's a gigantic work of nonfiction, far from the fields we know, but a tremendous book. Could end up being the first great book of the 21st century. I wouldn't put it past. When a bigger picture begins to unfold around them, they must each decide how to do the right thing in a shadowy world where simply maintaining the status quo feels like an accomplishment. Ultimately, resistance will not and cannot take the same shape for these two very different people. What does that mean? Was there a tragedy brewing here on the horizon? They'd known the end times were coming, but hadn't known they'd be multiple choice. The City Inside in June. So that's one of these things from Tor. There you go, you people. There's the bee. Most of you have been seeing her on Instagram in the last 2 weeks, but not in videos. And then this next one, isn't this lovely? Is this also June? Yes, this is June. This is Daughter of Red Winter by Ed McDonald. Those who see the dead soon join them. Daughter of Red Winter. Once again, you can gaze at the cover while I talk about this. Rain can see and speak to the dead, a gift that comes with a death sentence. All her life, she has hidden, lied, and run to save her skin, and she's made some spectacularly bad choices along the way. But it is a rare act of kindness, rescuing an injured woman in the snow, that becomes the most dangerous decision Rain has ever made. Because the woman is fleeing from Red Winter, the fortress monastery of the, oh god, we're back in Fantasyland, where none of the names are pronounceable. Oh god. Drawin? Capital Draoihn. No idea how you say that. Drawn? Drone? Warrior magicians who answer to no king and who will stop at nothing to reclaim what she's stolen. Okay, so the woman that Rain rescues has stolen something. A battle, a betrayal, and a horrific revelation force Rain to enter the citadel and live among the aforementioned drone or drain or drawn. She soon finds that her secret ability could be the key to saving an entire nation, though she'd have to die to make it happen. Okay, well, I'm sold. Absolutely. It sounds like this is the first in a series. It sounds like they both are. Great. So, science fiction and fantasy. Good Lord. I never get that kind of thing. Not that I'm complaining, mind you. Because I read it. I read it all. I just don't usually get it new from publishers. All right, we're doing fine. We're still eyeing the 30-minute mark. Just mail for today. We're not going to do anything else. I'm not going to do a FFS fantasy video. I'm not going to do a library tour, even though I'm back at my library. have to pardon me while I turn into an 800-pound gorilla to simply destroy the package that this book is in. Rather than put it in an envelope like a normal person, I had to simply destroy the package in order to get at its contents. 10 to 1, it's not worth that. Let's see what we have here. All this stuff. Oh, okay. I think we talked about this. Now I have the physical copy, print copy. This comes out in early March. This is Sam Gunn Jr. by Ben Bova. I think this is original paperback. No, it's coming out as a $30 hardcover. This looks like the finished copy, but this comes out in early March. Let's see here. Intergalactic explorer, venture capitalist, and Casanova, Sam Gunn may be gone, but his legacy lives on in his son, Sam Gunn Jr. In his first ever adventure, Sam Gunn Jr. sets off to fulfill his father's left-behind mission of interplanetary enterprising. He soon learns his father's shoes are tough to fill, but he is up for the task. Jr. takes a journey through the stars, falling in love with a beautiful woman, and leaving his unique mark everywhere he ventures. Soon, however, this trip through the universe takes a dangerous turn when Jr. lands on Saturn and learns about a recent scientific discovery that will change everything, possibly forever. Just land on Saturn. Maybe the publicist didn't know that you can't land on Saturn, but you get the point. Okay, so this is, if you might remember me talking about this, the author the publisher here is Blackstone Publishing, and they seem to be operating on the old wheeze that this is a Ben Bova novel that has just been languishing, maybe, or that is being reprinted. This comes out in early March. I'll have to learn, maybe from somebody at Blackstone, the whole provenance of this thing so that I know what I'm talking about when I review it. But science fiction, more science fiction, which is great. And then, believe it or not, we have reached the end. We've reached the last box here in part 2 of our homecoming mail home. So we're going to have to hope against hope that this thing behaves itself, and then we'll finish up. Oh, it did behave itself. Great. All right. So what do we got here? It's a big finished copy. It's not a bunch of books. It's a big finish. Oh, okay. All righty. Well, this is a bit of a bullseye. Okay. All right. This comes... All right, we're ending with a Steve book. And this may be the keeper that I was asking for. And how do you like that if it is that it was the very last book we did? The very last one. Looks like the one that's most likely to be something I keep forever. This is by Marcus Friedrich. It comes out on March 1st, and it is a gigantic new history of the Jesuits. And it has, I don't know if it's going to be this way in bookstores, but it has a naked hardcover. There's no dust jacket. That's just printed on the hardcover. That's great. Dust jackets don't do any good, but lovely, rare, very rare to see. So what have we got for a gigantic new history of the Jesuits? This is 872 pages long. I'm already in love. I can't believe it, but it actually happened. The keeper that I've been talking about for 2 videos now is the very last book we looked at. Isn't that me all over? Let's see here. This is the most comprehensive and up-to-date exploration of the Society of Jesus, more commonly known as the Jesuits. From the Counter-Reformation to the ascent of Francis I as the first Jesuit pope, the Jesuits presents an intimate look at one of the most important religious orders not only in the Catholic Church, but also the world. What do you mean one of? Bub. Examining the Jesuits in the context of social, cultural, and world history, the author sheds light on how the order shaped the culture of the Counter-Reformation and participated in the establishment of European empires, including missionary activity throughout Asia and in many parts of Africa in the 16th and 17th centuries. The author also explores the place of Jesuits in the New World and addresses the issue of Jesuit slaveholders. The Jesuits often tangled with the Roman Curia and the Pope, resulting in their suppression in 1773, but the order returned in 1814 to rise again as a powerful position of influence. The author demonstrates that the Jesuit fathers were not a monolithic group, and he considers the distinctive spiritual legacy inherited by Pope Francis. Okay. All right. Well, this comes out on the pub date on the list here is March 1st. I am going to read it with great interest. I'm not going to read it anytime soon. This is the one that hurts the most. This is the one that hurts the most. I cannot indulge in reading anything like this weekend. I cannot do that. This weekend or the early part of next week, I have a new, horrifying, crushing deadline that it cannot be ignored. It cannot be pushed back. So these all look delectable, but they're not. Most of them aren't going to help me at all. So, but at least you know it's coming out. A big new history of the Jesuits was the last book we looked at, and the only one that is a true Steve keeper. Although I'm sure that a lot of these others will please me. That gigantic novel on Alger a new interpretation of the fall of Rome. Oh, those things are fascinating. That's catnip. So I'm going to wrap this up at 30 minutes. We did it. We got through a two-part homecoming mail haul to welcome myself and the Bean back to Hyde Cottage after a prolonged stay up in the woods of Vermont. And who knows what we are going to encounter next. I was looking at the weather to see if there were more unpleasant surprises in store. The Bean and I were snug as a bug in a warm, old house while a blizzard of historic proportions was battering Boston just last week, just this time last week. So naturally, I'm looking at the radar maps and the weather forecast, and it looks like there's a storm that is right now west of the Great Lakes and coming south and east. It looks like that might be something, but I don't think it'll be big. That'll probably give a dusting to Boston and Vermont. A monster storm? I don't know. We shall see. But I am here now, and once I've got the collywobbles worked out, I first have to deal with all these books and all the other books. I obviously have to reshape my entire shelf of new releases for February, for January, and for March. I obviously have to reshape that completely. And that's going to take a little bit of time to do. And it's time I don't have to spare, but nevertheless, I am confident that by tomorrow, I will feel a little bit more balanced and will be able to make a little bit less of a harried booktube video. That would be great if I could. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Those are mail hauls to end all mail hauls. They ought to satisfy your yearning for new books for the time being, and mine as well. So I'm going to dig at them just a little, just to put notes, slips of paper in the ones that didn't have dates in them. I am not going to fall under the spell of any of these books. I simply cannot afford it. Soon. They will get their day. But for right now, I'm going to sign off and continue reacclimating. But I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.